Have you got any AMD hardware? Well, if so, then you may want to listen to this, as the Adrenalin driver has a, let's say, rare bug that has been bricking Windows installations. And while it's only affected a small number of users so far, that number could grow further. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video's sponsor. With this Thermaltake Tough Power 1350 watt fully modular power supply with full ATX 3.0 compatibility, a Smart Zero fan and PCIe Gen 5 ready, my PC will have all the life it needs.
It's alive, it's alive!
To find out more, click the link in the description below. Now, with any part of a computer, you have hardware and you have software. Now, generally speaking, while hardware can have its flaws, the major issues that we see come down to software, which has both a down and an upside. The downside being that it takes time to develop software and drivers, and when a fault is found, it's down to the brand to do everything in their power to rectify it. While the upside is that the fix generally consists of an update, making it easy for anyone affected to roll out the fix on their individual machines. Now, going back to the launch of the Adrenalin 23.2.1 driver, which dropped in kind of mid-February, where a small cluster of users were seeing some, well, pretty dire effects, with reports that the driver, in conjunction with Windows, was bricking installations and leading to non-successful boots of the operating system. And it all comes down to one tiny little checkbox. Now, when installing the AMD Adrenalin driver, there's a very small checkbox that allows you to perform a factory reset as part of the full install for your GPU. And that's where all the trouble starts. Brad Chakos from PC World was quick to document his findings, which consisted of him moving from an RTX 4070 Ti GPU to a 7900 XT for benchmarking, of which, much like you'd expect any tech media to do, he wiped any trace of the Nvidia driver through the use of the DDU uninstaller. Once all signs of Team Green were banished from his system, he continued to install the latest 23.2.2 AMD Adrenalin driver directly from the AMD website. After choosing the full install option and checking that all-important factory reset box, he was greeted with the usual, your PC needs to restart to finish the installation. And that's where all of the problems began. After the post sequence had finished and where you'd expect the Windows boot to actually start and begin, the system blue screened with the error message stopcode of inaccessible boot device. Now, drivers can do funny things to a system, especially when you're chopping and changing from one brand to another, though GPU drivers have been less troublesome over the last few years, and with DDU taking care of the work for you, it's kind of been a bit of a non-issue for quite some time. Using a Windows installation between different motherboard chipsets has generally been the downfall, but in this case the system remained the same, other than the swap in GPU. Now, sometimes a BSOD can be a one-off and restarting can fix it, while you can then look at Event Viewer to find out the cause. But not in this case, as the bug has been leaving users in an endless boot loop cycle with automatic repair options thrown in for good measure. Not that they help this time, and in most cases, don't help much at all. After a few attempts at swapping out the GPU, which was the only hardware change on the system, there didn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. Even switching back to the 4070 Ti that was working flawlessly prior to the change garnered no results. Luckily, due to PC World highlighting this issue, AMD's driver team got to work to find the root cause of the issue, and more importantly, how to fix it for anyone who's been affected. Now, a short-term fix does involve trying to get into the Windows repair options and restoring to a previous point, if you have System Restore enabled, that is. Now, while this generally happens after 3 or so failed boot attempts, reports have claimed restarting for a forced power shutdown anywhere up to 15 times, just to get to this wonderful looking blue screen of life. PC World were able to restore to a previous date and to get back up and running again, with the only real other option seemingly to be a fresh install of Windows, which for anyone in the tech media space is kind of a last resort for consistency when benchmarking tons of products. Now, while there is an issue, AMD have said that it is an extremely rare case, and from their own testing it seems to have occurred while running the installation of the driver and simultaneously running Windows Update, even if in the background without your knowledge. Now, I've had first-hand corrupted updates from Windows, so this just seems like a bit of bad timing, which is reflecting on AMD. And for now, they are warning users to untick that factory reset option during installation and are working on a fix as quickly as possible. On top of that, I'd always advise having system restore enabled, something that isn't done by default, and potentially setting a manual restore point before changing any critical drivers that are related to key hardware in your system. Otherwise, while you may be able to restore, it may be to a date much further back in the future than what you were expecting. Now, sticking with drivers, AMD and Nvidia seemingly have had their drivers at a level that is, I guess, more than acceptable by the general public after years of bad press. But Intel's ARC-based GPUs haven't been out long enough to be, let's say, scrutinised. And with us not having any first-hand experience with the Intel-based GPUs, I can't actually comment too much. Though it's widely reported that the A7 range of cards were suffering from high idle power consumption, especially when used in conjunction with multi-monitor setups. This led to an idle power draw of almost 50 watts, which, while it doesn't sound like a lot, even the most high-end system with an extreme level GPU only sits a little higher than that as a total system power draw. So having just 50 watts for what is seemingly, I guess, a mid-tier card definitely showed that something wasn't quite right. Well, luckily, while it wasn't as, let's say, a bad situation as what AMD are dealing with, Intel were able to roll out a new driver addressing the issue, after asking users to manually fix the issue within BIOS and Windows, which, while I get is a temporary fix, not everyone is comfortable changing settings within their BIOS, especially if their knowledge is, let's say, below what's expected to be able to make these changes. Now, as of the Intel Arc 4146 driver, this bug seems to have gone, but it does still require some tinkering within the BIOS. And while multi-monitor setups have been rectified to a degree, Intel have pointed out that their GPUs won't enter a low power state with 3 monitors connected and running. It does look like Intel have, let's say, a little further to go, and future updates could hopefully fix this without the need for tinkering. Because while a PC DIY enthusiast will be covered and have the relevant knowledge to change those all-important BIOS settings, someone who's maybe bought a pre-built or been given a PC and don't really have that knowledge, well, they're not really going to have anywhere to turn to. And with the cost of electricity the highest it's ever been across the world, saving a few watts here and there could make quite a big difference. Now, no matter what GPU you have, at some point in your life, you've probably played CSGO, or at least one game from Valve, owners of Steam. Now, while we all impatiently wait for Half-Life 3, it's still all rumours at this point and may actually never happen. What will be happening though is Counter-Strike 2, which is all but confirmed by Valve, as executables were found in the Nvidia control panel just a few days ago. But now we have more information with a potential launch date, at least for the beta, of, you guessed it, April the 1st. Now, I have to err on the side of caution here, as this could just be a cruel joke made up to coincide with the date, though reports have now come out that professional players have actually been flown out to Valve's offices to secretly test the game. One thing is clear is that if this does become a reality, it will be utilising the Source 2 engine, which will allow for much better graphics and better optimizations. Overall, on top of this, sources have revealed that the likes of matchmaking will be fixed, finally, which is actually something the community has complained about for years with the original, a game that we play on our Patreon game nights quite a lot. Now, the die-hard fans out there might be wondering what this means for CSGO, the original, as it's still one of the most popular competitive games on the market, even now, many years on from its original launch. And don't worry, sources see it likely that both games will coexist, as the huge community will not just up and switch to something new, especially with how much money has probably been invested in the likes of skins and whatnot. Now, of course, at this point, and with the date kind of still, I don't know, standing out like a sore thumb, this could all be hot air, as Valve haven't made any official statements. So I guess we'll just have to wait a little longer to see what materialises on the 1st of April. For now, that about wraps up this video. If you enjoy these news roundup kind of type videos, then a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you love what we do, you can join the exclusive Patreon support club with access to behind the scenes content, live Q&A sessions, a super special area on Discord, game nights, and much, much more. The link for all that good stuff is down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys.